Hello there. I am so excited to be documenting these photos. It was just a beautiful morning, and as you can see, we're camping. That's my husband, our dog Murphy. We've got an old Jamboree motorhome we have fixed up, and we found this gorgeous spot on the river. Do you see the river in the background? That's how close we were. So beautiful. And here's a nice little view of the river, and we had some raccoon visitors. So some fun photos here, definitely a happy memory. And when I spotted this stamp set, Adventure Together, I was pretty excited. It was an instant add to the cart because I don't have any motorhome stamps in my collection. I have like bumper pull type campers, but no motorhomes. So pretty excited to see that. And then the fire pit, I mean, come on, how perfect is that? All we need is a little border collie on here, and it was like it was made for my photos, right? So I love this. Let the adventure begin. There's a little cluster of moon and stars, and then happy campers, and you do have a couple little trees there. So this is a cling stamp, and there are coordinating dies. So you can see our stamps there, and then the dies have some extra little bits. There's like grass. You have some decorative spots to cut out those sentiments. This looks like tire treads. I haven't even tried that yet, but it's really cute, and dies to cut out the coordinating stamps and some trees. So I'm excited to ink this up and test it out today. And I don't have a inspiration sketch or anything. I just kind of printed these out, and I like to do the little kind of accessory photos or complimentary photos, if you will, smaller. It's fun to create with different size photos. I find that it's a little bit more freeing when you have smaller photos mixed with your larger photos. Now this is Timeless Plaid. You can see I have already cut into this. I've got some scraps in there. If anyone is curious, this is a little envelope. It's from the brand Meadow, and I ordered these on Amazon, and they're great for the 6x6 paper pads here. But I love plaid. I'm a boy mom, so these colors really speak to me. Plaid is just kind of a classic, and there's lots of different types of plaids in here. So you can see blues and greens and reds, and we've got some kind of the corally tones in there. Really pretty collection of plaids. So even though these are 6x6, I am going to create a double page 12x12 layout with these. So it's hard to narrow down these color choices. So many of these would go. I really like that one. Very pretty. And then on the opposite side is a different pattern. Well, I don't have all of them flipped over, but you can see it's kind of more like this checked pattern. Honestly, this even looks good. We can bring in some of these orangey tones because of the fire pit there. That might be fun. But what I was thinking is I really like this one because it brings in the blues and the greens. So we might incorporate that plaid, maybe some of this plaid, and then I also have my Country Woods wood grain paper collection. I think some of these will go quite nicely. So we could bring in the blues. I do like this one here. I've got a bunch of scraps, so we'll just try to work with some of the scraps. But I think that's really nice. This lends itself well to outdoor photos. The other side actually is that corally tone there, but I think I like the dark. Let's just go with these and see what develops. I'm going to scoot these over to the side here. As I mentioned, this is a double page layout, so I'm going to bring in both of my Versamats here, get these lined up. This helps me keep into frame too, which I'm sure you guys appreciate watching on the other side. I don't really have a direction, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm going to just start with what I know, and I've got some basic white here, and I was playing around with photo placement earlier, and you guys hear me say this all the time. This just really helps me break it down. So hubby and Murphy are looking in this way, so we'll put that one over there. Motorhome's kind of looking into the frame that way. Same with me, so we'll put that over here. This could really go either way. And then our little raccoons here. So we've got bigger photos over here, so we're going to need more over here. So we'll have to kind of figure out, where to put this guy as we kind of figure out our paper directions. Always go in a little column here. Lots of different ways we could place these. I might end up putting the majority of the, bigger photos over here, and then we can go heavy on the embellishments over here because we have less photos and more room. I pulled out all of this particular pattern because I really like this one, and then we've got these wood grain sheets. So this one here looks like that's 4 inches. This one is 8 inches. What do you know? That could have been a whole piece. I think it was. So I must have cut it for a different purpose and then abandoned mission. Who knows what happened? So if you put these together with a pattern like this, you can make it look pretty seamless just by matching it up. So I want something bigger than 6 inches. We could even go 12 inches. So there it's, maybe the pattern's not matching up perfectly, but I like to leave a little, border around the outside too. So let's maybe try something like that. Could go something like this. I could even cut off what's behind there and poke it out the other side so it looks like there's more. And then we want to make sure we have enough for the opposite side. And let's see, let's bring these photos in here, maybe like that. I do want to bring in these images, and sometimes it's helpful to just place them on. You could go stamp them out, or you could just place these on the layout itself because it's going to be the same size, and get an idea of maybe what those are going to look like, kind of the footprint that they're going to take up. So we could do something like this. This would be a nice spot for a title too, and maybe embellishment clusters here, or we could do embellishments here, title here, and a journaling spot there. Lots of ideas. What I'm going to do is, let's see, you know what, I'm just going to focus on this side. Sometimes you can, not sometimes, often you can overthink it, and sometimes I tell myself, just go with it. It's just paper, right? So let me set those aside, and you know what too, maybe if we brought in darker around the outside, since I don't have a lot of photos over here, I want to bring in more layering just to add to this layout. Maybe we'll go with the brown. I grabbed Early Espresso and Boho Blue. I think both of these would look nice, so let's try Early Espresso around the border there. I know it's kind of hard to see on the black Versamat, but I think that's going to look nice. Just kind of stops the, frames it in. And I don't like the blue. We're going to go with that one. Definitely that one. Off camera, I will go ahead and prepare this frame style layout, and then we can start adhering down our layers. So these, again, I want to overlap them. I will probably trim off what we're dealing with. So it's about 9 1/4 tall approximately. I still have to fine tune that when I do adhere it down. And then again, we'll trim some off and poke that out the other side. I'm counting out how many inches I need. That's approximately 5 inches, which is perfect. That will leave me an inch for the far end of the paper there. So I am going to trim off just shy of an inch, about 3/4. And let's do that to this piece here. And these will be our little offcuts for the far left-hand side. And then again, my wood grain piece is 4 inches by 12. So let's go ahead and line these guys up underneath here. I'm just going to dry fit everything to make sure I'm happy with the direction of it first, and then I will adhere those later when I've decided on the design. And we can bring these in. So I'm going to have about an inch of space on the top and bottom and right side there. For my main focal photo, I want more paper layers. This is Boho Blue, which is the blue in the plaid paper, and I want a lot of that color. So I'm going to make this an extra wide photo mat at 5 inches, and I'm not sure how long I want it yet. I'm going to put a dovetail in there, but I think it's safe to say we can shorten this to maybe about 10 inches. I'll go ahead and trim that off, and then we will come back and put the dovetail in it after I figure out my embellishments. Let's switch to the right-hand side. I was thinking this roughly for my photo placement, but let's bring in our papers and see what we can come up with. So I have 2 of the 6x6 squares of the plaid paper, and then I've got this wood grain, which is actually no, this one's 5 inches by 12. So I am trying to not have all my layouts mirror images. It seems to be a go-to design for me and I love it, but I'm trying to add a little bit of variety and change things up every once in a while. So I don't like it. I just don't. It's okay, but it just doesn't look as good to me as if we were to kind of create that mirror image. Now, it's not going to be identical because our photos are different. So we have symmetry, but yet we'll break it up with the embellishments and photos on either side of the page. So those fit there nicely. Maybe this one on top. Yeah, that's perfect. I like that. Now this one, it's kind of wide. What would that look like if we cropped it? I don't want to lose the composition of the photo, but I don't necessarily want to reprint it smaller. I do wish it was a smaller photo, like a 3x4, but I think we could trim off just a bit without losing the composition of the photo. For now, I'm going to ink up the edges of my paper layers here. I won't do all of them on camera, but I'll do a little bit here. And whenever you're inking up the edges, take a second or pile your papers off to the side because they need to dry. That ink will transfer to that nice white background paper, and then you're going to have to work hard to cover it up and get creative, masking your mistakes. So just set them off to the side, and then when they're dry, you can go adhere them to the background. That's one of those ask me how I know moments, right? So these photos were taken at the Klamath River RV Park. This is Klamath, California. Absolutely gorgeous. If you're ever traveling through that way and need a place to stay, I highly recommend this RV park. There was tent camping sites too, but it was so peaceful, just very beautiful. Let's go ahead and start to adhere these paper layers. I have my T-square ruler here, and since we're working with smaller bits, it's a little bit trickier to get them lined up from top to bottom because it's not one solid piece. So we will just do it this way using our ruler as our guide. Now this ruler is a close to my heart product, which is sadly no longer available, but you can find T-square rulers online, different craft stores, but it's a great tool to have in your crafty stash. Let's scoot this over here. I'm going to ink up the rest of the layers and get those adhered to the background. Let's do it. Let's just trim off the edge of this photo. Again, I don't think it's going to ruin the composition, just taking off a little bit, and it's going to fit the space much better. So I want to create the white border all the way around. I just cut it off. So I'm using a photo place card holder, and then we'll adhere this down and then just trim it so we have that nice little 1/8 inch white border around the edge. And you really can't tell where it's pieced together in the upper and lower corners there. Yes, I'm glad I did that. Much, much better fit. Let's go ahead and work on our embellishments. So we've got our adventure together, and I'm going to stamp out the motorhome here. I am coloring these in with alcohol markers. We'll also do the fire pit and the little chair there. Let me grab a block for each of these. And you want to use an alcohol marker friendly ink, or you could color them in with colored pencils. That would work well also. And in that case, it wouldn't matter if you had what ink you're using. You can use any ink with colored pencils. But this one works well with the alcohol markers. This is the Memento Tuxedo Black. If you have close to my heart inks, you'd want to use the intense black. So there's our little fire pit and then our cute little chair. Now I also want to stamp some of the pine trees. Well, we have 2 sizes, and I'm going to use Mossy Meadow. That is the green in this paper collection here. Let me just clean these up. I've kind of got stamps everywhere. It's helpful to clean up as you go, right? I appreciate that this cute little motorhome stamp is small enough to fit in traveler journals, traveler's notebooks, but large enough to incorporate onto a full 12 by 12 double page scrapbook layout. And I'm going to show you my tried and true techniques for giving a bigger presence to smaller embellishments. I don't know how many trees I'm going to need, so I'm just going to stamp out a bunch of these. And I do have a plan to incorporate some die cut trees in with this particular set as well. I'm just going to stamp a bunch here. You can always throw them back in the envelope and save them for the next project. That looks good. I also have this little piece of grass, and I think I'm going to be using this to ground the motorhome. So this is Granny Apple Green in the Stampin' Blends, and I'm just coloring a piece of paper. You could use Granny Apple Green cardstock, but I just thought grabbing the marker and making the little swatch of green was just as easy. So I'm making it big enough there. And now let's color in our stamped images. I've given those enough time to dry. You do need to let that ink dry before you color it. This is Boho Blue, the same as the cardstock and the same as the color in the pattern paper there. And I'm coloring every other little swoop on that awning. And now we've got Pecan Pie for the chair and the planter box on the motorhome there. I've sped this up quite a bit. I do recommend when you're using the Stampin' Blends, they've got a bullet tip and a brush tip. Hold back from the edge just a smidge because you'll stay in the lines that way. If you go right up to that edge, it will kind of bleed a little bit, and it depends largely on the cardstock you're coloring on too. Some cardstock is thirstier than other cardstock and handles the ink differently. This is Crumb Cake. I am using my own motorhome for inspiration, which is kind of like this tan color with blue. We don't have an awning on our motorhome, but that's okay. There's a blue stripe on it, so I thought the blue and the kind of crumb cake tan would be fun. I am using gray granite for the tires here. You could use black. I like using dark gray. And then we've got this is light balmy blue to add a little blue shading to the glass on the motorhome. Let's use Mossy Meadow to color in the plants in the planter box there. So cute. I love all the little details on here. And then for my fire pit, I've got Calipso Coral because that is a color in the plaid paper in this paper pack. And it makes a nice little fire color too. So Calipso Coral for the flame, and then we will use that same gray granite for the base of the fire pit. And of course, these are just suggestions. You can custom color your stamps to match whatever paper collection and of course your photos as well. So let's go ahead and get all of these die cut out. There's all my trees. We've got the little chair there. I've got the fire pit, the motorhome, and our grass. So I'm kind of picturing this little scene over here on the left-hand side, and we're going to just place these down, no rhyme or reason, kind of clustering them there. And you see they're not really standing out. So what I love to do is highlight them with something behind them. So these are the Spotlight on Nature dies. You can use a hexagon, you can use a tag shape, anything to kind of harness and like house those smaller embellishments together. So instead of being a bunch of random scattered floating pieces on the background, this anchors them together and creates this little vignette, if you will. So it kind of grounds them all together and they're no longer floating. And plus having the lighter background helps them to stand out. I think some of these little trees will look cute here, and we can go ahead and dovetail this. I don't want it very deep. I'm going to bring it down here so I can find center. This is 5 inches, so we're going to cut up at 2.5, just about, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch there. And then you're going to cut in from each corner. Some people like to gently fold the cardstock over and then you cut both layers at once. It's very awkward to me for some reason. And then this is very thick cardstock. So I didn't quite get that perfect. We're going to trim this up so they match, and that looks pretty good. See how much character that little dovetail adds? I think it's just a fun look. Or you can even kind of put a diagonal tear in the bottom. Now, this is the Forever Forest die set. There are stamps, but I just went ahead and die cut those pieces. So you can see the coordinating. Oh, look, we have little rocks here too. I forgot about those. Those might be kind of fun. They seem like just the right size. So I cut a couple of those from gray granite cardstock, and they have like embossing detail in there to add a little rock-like texture. Let's see. That's cute. I like it. I wanted to add these die cuts because they're bigger and I think they still coordinate well together, but it's going to help me add a little bit more to these embellishment clusters. And I like to mix and match my stamps and die cuts here. So these are cut from both Mossy, Meadow, and Old Olive because I wanted a couple different colors for my trees here. My husband and I only stayed here one night, and we were so disappointed we didn't have more time to enjoy it. It would have been nice just to be able to explore the area a little bit more, but it's sometimes fun to see what's out there and then okay, I want to go back and visit again. Now I am using the same technique to house these smaller embellishments over here. We've got a smaller circle for our fire pit and our little Adirondack chair. And let's tuck some trees behind it. So it also kind of serves the purpose of anchoring those trees also. And we might want a little cluster down here. Where can we put this guy? Sometimes less is more. Maybe that one won't quite fit. We'll leave him off to the side. So I mentioned wanting to bring this in because it looks nice. These are the two coordinating colors. We have both Calipso Coral and Cajun Craze. I could go either way. I think I like the Cajun Craze better with my photos. Let's go with this one. This is the mini alphabet die. You cut them out all at once, and I'm just eyeballing this space to see if I can fit all of my letters there. My title reads Riverside Retreat. And actually, let's scoot these over. I don't quite like them stacked on top of each other like that. What if we bump these over to kind of follow the photos there? I like that better. That looks good. We're going to go with that. Now I have these in my stash. They are from Papercraft Possibilities. I think I picked them up at either Joann's or Hobby Lobby. I'm doing a rough sort here, and on the right is anything that could potentially go with my layout, and I'm weeding out the ones that are either duplicates or they don't match. So we're just doing a quick sort, and then we can audition the pieces I've decided will be a good fit. I actually bought 2 of these packs because I do a lot of outdoor travel pages. So this is definitely something I will use. And okay, so now we have them narrowed down. This one says Rome, which I think is awesome, and it has that orangey tone, but it doesn't fit. Oh, Explore, I like that. That anchors those trees perfectly. It gives them a place to originate from. This is a cool little log round that says adventure. We've got all sorts of little sayings here, and every single one of them looks good. Oh, I like that one. I like those two. This one's more like a title. I think it's a little bit big. That one's cool. Also says adventure. So many choices. And I still want to use my little stamp images too. I don't really think there's room for all of them. It feels a bit too much. Yeah. So now I get to decide, do I want to use these or do I want to use my stamps maybe up here? Nope, just too much. Let's, I like that, but you know what? We're going to use the stamps. So what these need is some words over here. So we've got Let the Adventure Begin and Happy Campers. So this one is a little bit bigger. We could put this one at the top with our smaller embellishments under it. But it's not really the beginning of the adventure, so maybe Happy Campers would be better for this layout. And we could put that on the bottom, and then these little guys can sit on top of my little word sentiment. Yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and stamp this onto this piece of paper here. I have this beautiful blue color. It's called Misty Moonlight, and it's a deeper blue than that boho blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors, so I just love all these, and it just looks so nice with the blue sky in the photos there. Let's go ahead and fussy cut this out. Now, I'm not going to get super fancy. I'm just going to wiggle my way around the word happy because it's kind of scripty, and then campers is kind of blocky. So we'll just follow the font and then just wiggling in around, following along the letters, and there. So now we can put this maybe right here. If you stamped it up higher, you could have stamped it right on the circle, but I wanted it a bit lower. Let's add some background color. This is a nice light blue, and it's called Balmy blue, and it's a very nice sky color. So I'm blotting off my blending brush, and I just want a very light wash of color in the background of this circle here. So you can see that nice little effect, and then that'll be a background and help our little embellishments kind of stand out and just adds another little detail. I had a request to show how I adhere down the titles because usually I do that off camera because it's tedious and time consuming, but I thought I would add it in just a little of it so you can see how I do this. Again, I'm using that T-square ruler, and you want a very fine tip glue. This is the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, and I use a pair of reverse tweezers, and you're just adding a few dots. You don't need to add a ton of glue, and then you're lining them up on the top of that ruler and just working your way through each letter here. The glue gives you just a little bit of time to wiggle them into place, but once it's set, it is permanent. So I went ahead and did some of those off camera. Let's go ahead and add the E, and then I'll do the word retreat off camera. So these photos were actually taken early in the morning. We got up early and we were enjoying coffee out by the fire, and my husband said, look, there's some raccoons. So they kind of popped out of the brush on one side of the campground, and then they had to go through the motorhomes to get to the river, which was where they were headed. And they were pretty startled to see us. I don't think they expected people to be up that early. So I've got this other plaid paper, and I want to bring in a spot for my journaling, and then I want to add more of this Cajun Craze color. So let me see how much room I have for my actual journaling. That's about 2 by 2. Now I went ahead and die cut this using partial die cutting. So what I did is I just hung the tail end of that off the die cutting plate so that it didn't cut and I could make it longer. And now we're going to die cut out my journaling. I printed this out on cardstock with my printer, and I like to kind of stack these here. So let's go ahead and slide them. Oops, I need to lift up my adhesive there. And now we can slide these under. So yeah, we had that nice Cajun Craze color that carries it over from the title. We can bring our little trees. The white tag actually really helps those pine trees to stand out too. So I cut a little circle from the same pattern, wanting one more little pop of that color. And we'll put that one over here to help these little trees stand out. I tied one bow. I'll show you how I do the second one here. So make a loop, poke it through. Now you're going to send the tails through that loop. Now you can just leave it like this, or you can tie a bow. So I'm going to tie a little bow here, and then I like to put my finger on the knot and then pull the tails so my bow loops are the same size, and then you can cut off any excess. Now I couldn't help myself. I had this old stamp from close to my heart called Forest Critters. So I made a raccoon, and I know he's not to scale, but it's just too perfect and I've got to use it. So we can put him there. We'll just say those trees are saplings. That's cute too. Oh, I kind of like that. What do we want to do? Do we want to put him up here? I might end up moving him back down to the title. I added a few of these paperboard arrow shapes. Those are also from close to my heart. I'm trying to use up my stash. Isn't that cute? And then their little raccoon, whole little family of raccoons. They were so funny. They got the nerve to, run past us and sprinted across the lawn and disappeared into the berry bushes on the other side on their way to the river. It was so fun to see them. I have all of my supplies listed and linked in the description box for you. And if you are looking for more outdoor adventure type videos, definitely watch these right here. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, and I'll see you very soon on YouTube.